Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 98 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome back to the show. In this episode, we're going to be talking about keeping it light, things you can do on the firing line to make the experience awesome for the next generation coming through, and things to keep in mind, and we're trying to promote the sport, really get a chance to enjoy everybody who's involved in it, and just keeping people motivated to coming back out and enjoying it. We're also going to cover the new online long-range shooting school that we are working on as we speak. So we have a couple different formats, some ideas on how we can really take instruction and training to the next level. We've been working on this for a while, really trying to contemplate on how we can get the most of the customer for all the time that they have to dedicate to it and make it really efficient and effective for long-range shooting. So really looking forward to this podcast. So without further ado, here we go. All right, right out of the gate, I do want to say a quick thank you to Krieger Barrels. Krieger is a maker of fine cut rifle barrels, and they also have their new store, KriegerDirect.com, where you can log on, order your custom barrel, and have it shipped in as little as 3 to 4 business days. So if you're in the market for a great custom barrel and you need it now, stop over to KriegerDirect.com. We'd also like to thank MDT. MDT is a proud sponsor of the show as well and maker of a great chassis. So whether you're looking for a great hunting chassis like the HNT26, or if you're in the market for a competition-based chassis like the legendary ACC, stop over to mdttac.com. That's mdttac.com. So keeping it light, what does that mean? Well, when we get into different hobbies, when we're out and enjoying ourselves, regardless of what you like to do, whether it's, hunting like what we do, or you get into long-range shooting, you get into flying an airplane, you get into scuba diving, you get into, there's all these hobbies and things that we get involved in. But rarely do we think about, how we approach it to keep people around us having fun, keep everybody lifted up, so to speak, as well as how do we get the next generation out on the firing line and enjoying themselves. And I think this is a really important podcast because we're at a tipping point now to where, the general public and the majority is thinking, well, is there really a need for this anymore? You're getting people removed from the outdoor industry. They're getting removed from hunting and the benefits of going out and, harvesting game animals and bringing them home and processing them. These are things that wasn't just a hobby, even 20 or 30 years ago. So I remember on my great uncle's farm that back in the day, even in the 80s and 90s, where you would have struggling families that have fallen on hard time. And I was setting up there, and right about dark, they'd roll in and get a cup of coffee, and his name was Old John, and they'd sit and talk a while, and, if it was a full moon or whatever, and the people would sneak out, and maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, you hear a gunshot, and they'd drag the deer in and clean it and get it all butchered up, and that family actually took that deer home to eat it. Now, was it legal? No, probably not. But back in the 80s, when you had a family that was hungry or that needed food, this was things that were common practice. So people would go out and not just harvest animals just because they're looking for a trophy. A lot of times it really was an alternative food source to what they could buy, or trying to save money, or trying to purchase better, or trying to get better quality food for their families, whether it's rabbits or all these really cool, wild games that we eat. But where we're losing track of this is trying to keep that energy up and motivating the next generation and letting them see what this is really all about. And then you compound that with the different personalities and stress in life, and all you have to do is make it just a little less than enjoyable, and you've taken what could have been a potential ambassador to our industry in the future, and you've removed them completely. We have, as far as parents and, someday grandparents, we have a responsibility to sort of pass the torch, so to say, or at least open the doors so they know that there's an option here, that this is a really cool thing that's part of our lives, and you're more than welcome to join us and come and see what it's all about. And you have a big challenge ahead of you. Really, you're competing against, them sleeping in a nice warm bed. You're competing against them getting up and playing online video games with graphics that would just blow anybody away. I mean, the video games we had when we were a kid, you were sort of bored on, 15, 20 minutes. I'm trying to think of all the different, Atari games, if you can go back that far. They were fun, but you didn't get trapped in this virtual reality where other people were interacting live, and then all of a sudden you're immersed in these games. And these companies, they know this. I seen an ad, they were talking about this one major virtual reality game, and that they had over 100 million human hours worldwide have participated in this game. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking 100 million human hours that weren't devoted to anything else other than sitting on their couch in a virtual reality game. How many lifetimes is that? And it's like, wow, this is serious. So how do you compete against that? How do you get the kids motivated to go out and do this when they've got all these other cool things and their friends doing it? What do we do? So one of the things that I really want to throw out there is that we have a responsibility to keep it light. We have to be the person in the room that's brightening it up, that's making it fun, that's turning it from a hassle or, oh my God, I got to walk down and put another target up type thing, or, we forgot this, so you show up and you're all angry because you missed something at home. It is these little things that are going to set the tone that could be really big turnoffs to new shooters, to people that want to come out and hang out with you, the motivating people to return. They're not even going to judge you by your words on this. You can tell people, well, I'm a passionate hunter. I love this stuff. I live for this. This is what I'm all about. But then you go out in the woods and you behave differently or you act differently. They are judging you by your actions, right? They don't really care what you have to say. If you go out and you're a crank because you left your cell phone at home, or you're pissed because you didn't bring the right ammo for a particular gun you were going to test that day, these are the little things that will drive the new shooters away and potentially close the door. I mean, it's sad to say, but it's almost that critical that we create this great atmosphere, that we're very mindful that even if you're having a bad range day, you make it the best day ever. That, you're picking people up, joking around with them. Hey, it's not that big of a deal. Come on. I've missed that target more times you can shake a stick at. Let's try it again. We do it here at the shooting school. We get exposed a lot to people that have never enjoyed long-range shooting, and you got a ton of different personalities that come on to the firing line that want to learn the art. Some are very passive and, just really open-minded, and they're easygoing, and other people, alpha males, and, they have to hit that target. It's like their lives depend on it, or their ego depends on it. And when they miss once or twice, all of a sudden they get all mad, and I mean, I can't tell you, several times we've had to pull customers off to the side, literally, quietly, of course, not making a big scene, but be like, hey, you got to relax a little bit. You're supposed to be here to enjoy this, Throwing a magazine out across the firing line isn't going to help you hit the next target, So you got to sort of pull it together here, right? We're here to have fun, learn, relax. If you just relax and have fun, you're going to go on to the next target, and you'll probably hit it on the first round. And so we're like these big cheerleaders in the background that are, trying to pump the students up and telling them, hey, we miss. Everybody does. Don't worry about it. Get it. Don't forget about it. Go on to the next target. Or, they're getting obsessed at these really long targets that we put out there that blow up when you hit them. And we have some gallon water jugs we put food on. They're a lot of fun. They're about the size of a PA woodchuck. But guys get obsessed with these things. They're missing it by an inch, right? And they miss it an inch left and an inch right. And they're getting frustrated. I'm like, oh my God, I can tell you 1,000 people that would be happy to miss that jug by an inch. To me, a close miss is just as exciting. It's like, wow, I almost hit that. That's really cool. Let's try it again. So we're trying to tell everybody, hey, just have fun, relax. But I just want to throw out there on the podcast that these are opportunities for you to set the example, to be that person on the firing line, to lift people up, to be the bright spot rather than letting other people or other situations start dimming the lights on the mood, start dimming the lights on the fun, just you can counteract that. And you can actually get the switch to turn around the other way and allow people to have a great time. I know it's important for us as friends, as people that we go out and hunt and shoot with. You got to keep them light, keep them motivated, have fun. But when it comes to the kids and the next generation coming up through, I can't tell you how important I think this is. Like, I remember taking my daughter out. Deer were hard to hunt here for several years when she was right around that age of, 12, 13, when they could start hunting. And it was so hard to find deer here in PA. And, you're dragging a 12-year-old girl out at 5 a.m, freezing cold. And I remember she had this thing called lava buns, right, that you set on to keep your butt cold. And, how do you keep a kid like that motivated just to go out there and set in the cold at that age when they have the choice not to? Let alone if you go out there and you're cranky and you're miserable. So I would try to make everything I could do to make it fun. Like, we would go out and meet my uncle, who's about the same age as me. We'd meet him for lunch, and his kids, and they're about the same age as Gabby. And we'd make it a social event. But I will remember that how many times it was just really cool to sit there, and the barriers are down, the judgmental's down. We're just there, two people hanging out. And good God, in this day and age, how important that part of it is, right? So I used to take Gabby out groundhog hunting with me when she was really young. We were filming some videos, and I would con her into coming with me. We had a four-wheeler when I had some knee surgeries, and I'd take her to the different farms. And, when I was healthy, we'd stop at these different farmhouses, and all the farmers' wives made such a big deal about Gabby showing up with her pink hat on and, all of this cool stuff. I'd stop and get her a Pennsylvania gob, they call it. It's like a little chocolate cake and a Coke or something silly. And we'd stop at a farmhouse, and lady would run in and grab her a soda or something, and, just made her have fun. And that was awesome. It kept her motivated. It kept her, when we said about going out, she was looking forward to it. I bought her a cricket rifle, and we took her out and was shooting and letting her play. And we would take golf balls, and I would set them up on tees all over the place, and she would shoot the golf balls. And just things like that make a world of difference. And it's not about you. It's really about the kids and getting the next generation started. Put your stuff away. I can't tell you how many times I've taken stuff to the range when me and Gabby would go when she was younger, and I wouldn't even break my own stuff out. It really wasn't that big of a deal if I shot one or two shots just to have some fun. But my job was to be there to help her, to make sure she's having fun, to make sure she's being safe, and just give her a great experience, right? But the flip side of it is, if you get that bond, I really don't think there's anything else that you can do right now that you could sit there quietly for a couple hours with no distractions. Like, I loved it. We could sit there in the woods and just talk about anything, and the guards were down. It was just relaxed. The phones weren't ringing. I wasn't on the phone with a customer. She didn't have her friends knocking on the door wanting to go swimming or anything like that. It was just me and her hanging out. I will remember those days for the rest of my life. And I remember how proud I was of her that, at that age, it was freezing cold, and man, she was just so adamant that she was going to sit there. And we finally seen one doe come running through. And that's all, she talked about for hours. Is that, did you see that doe? I know I couldn't shoot it, but did you see that? And I know when she was practicing, we put pictures of deer up at 50 yards. And I used to let her practice shooting the picture of the deer, and she saved those. And, that was a good shot, Gabby. Would have been a dead one there. And, that was pretty cool. But how tough she was at 12 years old, crawling out of bed, freezing cold, by the way, clearing off a stump, sitting in the woods, and thinking, this is one tough kid. I didn't have to prod her. I woke her up at 5:30, whatever it was in the morning, and she crawled right out of bed and all excited, got her stuff on, made sure she got her lava buns that she sat on to keep her butt warm. And, we found these lava buns. To tell you a quick story. We were out hunting, and, there's like these little seats you sat on, right? And people hook them to their butt, probably more for turkey and everything else. But so we're walking down this old logging road, and right in the middle of the road is this orange on one side, camo on the other, little seat, like 2 or 3 inches thick, and it was written lava buns. You heat it up, or you throw it in the microwave or something in it, and then it stayed warm for a couple hours while you're setting on it. So that was the running joke, is Gabby had her lava buns that she would take with her, and we always got a big giggle out of it. So these memories last a lifetime, but I just want to throw it out there that Whether you're out with your friends, family, or if you're taking your kids out, be really careful that your mindset is right, that you don't have things bothering you, that you don't go there stressed out, right? Completely stress-free. Make it a great experience. Try to really lighten up the mood a little bit if something happens that it doesn't work out the way that they want it to. This is how we keep them coming back, and this is how we keep the industry growing. This is how we keep kids shooting. And I think that's probably the most important part. So before we continue on to the podcast, I do want to say a quick thanks to Trigger Tech. Trigger Tech makes great triggers. We use them here in all of our custom rifles, and they make a lot of them for a lot of aftermarket trigger replacements for all the different models and makes and manufacturers. So if you want to shoot better, one of the things I really recommend is to put a good trigger in your rifle. And if you're going to do that, we really recommend Trigger Tech. So you can stop over to triggertech.com today and get yours ordered. All right, so another thing I want to bring up on the podcast here that we're really excited about is twofold. Number one, I've been working on a book called The Extraordinary Guide to Accuracy. And I've been working on it for, like 3 or 4 years and trying to break down all the subjects and how all the different experiences that I had that have helped me in shooting, all the different experiences that I've had, with different students training, and things that we've seen, things that, we've corrected, and ways that we found to fix this and fix that. But one of the things with the book itself that was like, okay, so we got this book, we're just about finished with it. But how much different is it from any other book? And I think it's a good book, and I think it's, offers a lot of value for some of the things that's in it. But for some reason, something was telling me to hold off and hold it back a little bit. That it just wasn't there. There's a ton of books coming on the market every year in this subject. And then we started doing a lot of video work, and we thought, okay, when we do our YouTube stuff here, let's start incorporating some training and some teaching and some things that we do at the school to try to, encourage and help and get shooters along. But then all of a sudden the lights sort of came on. Now the podcast is going on over 3 years old, which we're really excited about, that we've been around for quite a while. We're really thankful for all the sponsors, and we have an important announcement for that at the end of the show as well. But it really hit me this past week or two. Like, I'm sitting down and I'm trying to make a game plan for how we could take our training to the next level and what we could do to really help a lot of people get the most of their shooting, get the most of their time at the range, get the most of their time while they're training. And we thought, well, we could do an online video instructional. And we thought that would be great. There's a lot of subjects that we could cover, but a lot of these subjects are really require a lot of teaching as far as like, there's going to be some words involved. And so I'm thinking that probably might not be the greatest idea, simply because who's going to sit down and watch a half an hour of just a very dry conversation that needs to be had, the points that need to be made. Now, here at the shooting school, we have a captive audience. We do all the teaching in the morning in the classroom. We do all of our range time in the afternoon. So we've got 4 nonstop, sometimes 4.5 nonstop hours before we get to the range that we can go over just tons of things that need to be going over. And when you get into fundamentals of marksmanship and you get into all these other subjects, I always say that for people that have done this before, it's like chewing on, dry cereal. It's a very dry subject. It's like dry cereal with no milk, chew, 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 hard to swallow type thing, right? But you have to go over it. You have to do it. It's part of, what we have to do when we teach. And then it dawned on me, like, oh my God, we should do not just a video online long-range shooting school, so to say, but then we should double down on that and incorporate that with an audio format to go over all of the other things that we could teach and talk about and help that doesn't require video. So, for example, my goal is to say, okay, if we're going to do video work, we have to break them down in very small segments, include training, include targets, all these other things we're going to do, but we got to keep it like 10 to 12 minutes, tops. It's just people's attention span isn't that great anymore. So if they want to continue on to the next section, they can, but, try to keep the video segments 10 to 12 minutes and, really less but better, super high quality, super good instruction, and let them go off and practice it. But in the end, it would just drag it out for years with a lot of things that wouldn't be said or subjects that wouldn't be covered that needed the extra time. So one of the blessings I think that the podcast has been is the fact that we can do this. So what we're going to do that's completely different than any other online training or any online shooting school that's out there is we're going to do both a video and an audio portion of instruction. And that way, once a week you can log on, you can get the latest video. Eventually these over the next year or two will be archived into a great video selection, right? But going forward, we're going to release one video a week, sometimes with training segments attached that we would like you to work on. But then we're going to include audio to talk about the subjects that we really need to talk about, but in a format that doesn't require it to be a video. And so while you're driving to work, while you're at the gym, while you're taking the dog for a walk, all these great things, because I'm a huge fan of audiobooks. I read some books, I listen to a lot, just because I drive a lot, and I like to learn new things, And so I think the reason we've held off for so long is it just took forever to realize that there was something missing. It wasn't quite right. Like, we can't just do a full-on video. It would be really drawn out, might be a lot of boring subjects, really long-winded video segments. And the podcast has been a blessing. Like, it's really been awesome. We're really, happy that it took off the way that it did and that people enjoy it. It's sort of one of my favorite things to do. But then it dawned on me, it's like, wow, we got this perfect platform to where we could compound people's training by allowing them to learn the things that we need to cover, but don't necessarily need to cover it in a video. So starting March 1st, our online long-range shooting school will kick off and be open. Now, it will be open for registration at the end of February 17th, and you can start registering. If you register for the shooting school and you sign up, there'll be nothing charged or no fees involved until March 1st, so the first video is released. But then once every other week, an audio, not always on the same subject, but subjects that we have to cover to keep compounding your learning. And eventually leading up to a really nice big archive of our entire long-range shooting school, both in the audio format that needs to be covered in an audio format, as well as all the video portions and the training portions. And we're even going to go so far as when the shooting schools kick off in April, May, June, July, with the consent of the students, that's a great opportunity for us to start filming and talking about the different training techniques that we use and how you're going to apply them and give you a chance to see what's going on downrange. We really have never filmed our shooting schools, per se, and it's been talked about, hey, we should just set up a video camera in the room and film for 4.5 hours and take it to the range, just film the entire school from front to back. But there's just more to it than that. And the one reason I haven't done it is because I'm so dedicated to teaching the class is I don't think it would be fair to the students for me to be distracted while I'm trying to produce a video at the same time. So while the shooting schools are going on over the summer, we're going to take small segments and maybe do a small video portion with the permission of the students, but not invade an entire or take over an entire long-range shooting school for the sole purpose of us making a video of it. So when you go onto our website, you'll see our online long-range shooting school. So when you go on the page, you can go down and see the different tiers that you can sign up for, and there'll be links involved. That's going to take you onto a Patreon page where there's going to be a monthly subscription and where you can, choose what program you want. And we added a couple extra layers to it that if you would like to sign up for what we consider our master class, it includes a 1-hour video live chat that we're going to do once a month and a 1-hour VIP where that's a very limited, I believe we're limiting it to 20 students, where you can ask questions direct and we can do an hour-long conversation that way. So there's different tiers you can sign up for. But also I want to throw out there too that if you enjoy the podcast and it's content that you like and enjoy, you can go over to our Patreon page and you can find it on, Libsyn. You can find it on our website. If you get into our online long-range shooting school, it'll be posted up on our podcast page. But if you enjoyed the podcast and you would just like to support the show, we really appreciate that as well. So you can sign up and support the show through the Patreon page. I think there's a $2.95 and a $9.95 donation that you can make to the podcast, which we really appreciate as well. One of the things with the podcast, as well as this upcoming whole video series, it is very time consuming. We estimate right now that I probably spend about two days a week working on audio and video and all the things that we're trying to produce. And that's probably going to go up to 3 days a week, potentially even with employees, of all the content that we're going to have to lay out over the next year or two. So it's very time intensive. It's very labor intensive. It really pushes the rest of my work into the rest of the week as far as all the builds and bringing customers in and all the other great things that we do. It's still a big portion of our business. And so we don't want to charge for the podcast, but we do want to ask that if you enjoy it and you would like to make a donation, that would be really awesome. Lots of great equipment has been purchased and more purchased through the years. And the same thing with the video. We used to do professional video work in the past where we would purchase lenses that would cost $5,000 and $10,000 just for a lens. So as much as we really want to do these projects, and we're going to, they are very expensive and very time consuming, and they do require a lot of equipment, sometimes which breaks. We've taken a lot of cameras in the field and have had stuff destroyed. We've had stuff stolen. There's all kinds of crazy things that happen. I believe one time one of the employees left a piece of equipment laying on the field that had a cost of nearly $12,000. And so when I realized it was missing, I went back. It was 4 or 5 days later. It was still laying in that field where we were groundhog hunting, which was amazing. So this stuff happens. It's sort of how it works. But if you would like to donate to the podcast, we appreciate it. If you'd like to sign up for our online long-range shooting school, you can stop over to our website. It's wolfprecision.net. You can click on the online long-range shooting school tab, and that will open you up, give you a description of the different classes and courses, and then you can click on those in the bottom. It'll take you to our Patreon page where you can sign up for the actual courses themselves. The first class will be posted up March 1st, and that'll be followed up with one video a week being posted up, as well as some training exercises that will be incorporated in a lot of those through the year. And then there'll be an audio portion for the times you're driving in your car, all the other subjects that we need to talk about or help or teach that we don't necessarily have to have you sitting and watching a video for, so we can take advantage of the time that you have in your car mowing your grass and go over all these other things. So we think that we found that beautiful combination of how we can actually accomplish this, of getting our long-range shooting school entirely online and do it really, really well, better than everybody else, and make it really effective and efficient for the people that are wanting to learn. And I think the reason that I've held off this long is I just didn't know, there was something not right about the format of just doing all the videos. It just didn't make sense. There was missing things. And I'm really excited to say that the missing part of it is simply doing the audio versions of things that we need to talk about that are a little bit more long-winded subjects and all of these things that is great content but doesn't have to be in video format. And I think the beautiful combination is when you get those two things together. You're going to have an online version of the videos where you can, watch all the instructions and take heed to all the things that we're talking about and go and practice some of the targets that we're sharing. But then with that is the supplement of the audio versions of the things that we need to discuss and things that we need to teach that you don't have to sit there and watch a video to learn. And so I think the way that this is going to be super successful and get great information out efficiently and effectively to the customers is the missing portion was to do a straight up audio version of our book almost in the form that we are doing now, like with the podcast, and then supplement that with all the video instructions. So it's a double-edged sword. I think when you combine both of those and the assets that they can be used for in teaching, you wind up with a great award-winning program, and that's sort of what we're going for. So you can stop over to wolfprecision.net and see all the exciting information there. Click on those links and send you over to our Patreon page. We really appreciate it. The podcast itself will still continue on. We're still going to do the podcast. It is for free. We do have some sponsors for the show, which we really appreciate, and we really appreciate the kind words and emails and everything that we've gotten from around the world. It's really amazing that it's grown in Europe and other countries outside the United States, which we're super excited about. So thank you so much for all of that and for the kind words. The next podcast we're going to do, we're actually going to cover a couple really good questions that were submitted by listeners. So one of the great questions that was submitted by a customer named Ken, and he had asked, how do you deal with stress and fatigue at matches and hunting events? And I thought that was a great question, really. That deserves some time to talk about because that can make or break a match. That can make or break a hunting event. So the next podcast we're going to put up next week is going to be talking about some customer Q&As as well as fatigue, which I think is a big one. If you have a question that you would like us to talk about on the air or something that you would like to ask, please send it to us here at contact@wolfprecision.net. And if we read your question on the air and cover it, we will send you a t-shirt or hat as our way of saying thank you. We really do appreciate you reaching out. So looking forward to next week. Again, stop over to wolfprecision.net and check out the new online long-range shooting school that will be kicking off starting in March. We're looking forward to having you there. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.